Hi everyone, I hope you're keeping well. Thanks for jumping on today's webinar. I appreciate you've all got busy diaries, so we'll try and make it as interesting as possible. The webinar is going to be hosted by myself, Sebastian Heinrich, and my colleague, George Brown. We're account managers here. George is our key account manager. Some of you I can see logged on will be familiar with myself and also George here as well. As we go through the webinar, if you do have any questions, please feel free to add them in our comment section, and we'll try and get through to those at the end. On a quick side note, we have just recently released version 5 of Virtual Cabinet. We've completely changed the look and feel to VC with a brand new interface. It looks brilliant, and those of our clients that are already upgraded absolutely love it. So if you haven't upgraded, please do. If you need a hand upgrading, you can contact our support team on support@virtualcabinet.com. They'll be more than happy to log a ticket. Alternatively, you can contact your account manager and he can get that logged for you. In front of you, you should be able to see the agenda slide. So what we'll do on today's webinar, we'll obviously go through the benefits of using integration and how they improve your day-to-day. We'll run through some of the powerful features that we have with these integrations. Then I'll hand you over to George for the techie bit, where you can go through the integrations in a bit more detail for you. There's a whole bunch of companies that we currently work with, so we'll run through those. Don't worry if you don't see any of your systems on the slides. We're always happy to build new relationships, so just let us know. Some of you actually might already have an integration. You might want to swap a new system or develop that integration further. So we'll show you how easy it is. We'll discuss how easy it is to get that ball rolling. And then at the end, as I said before, we'll go through any questions that you guys might have. So before we actually get started, I just want to run a quick poll to see where you're all at. So the question I'm going to be asking is, do you currently have an integration with VC? I've got two answers here. Yes, but I'm interested in integrating further, and no, nothing. So I just want to see where, as I said, where we're all at with that. Okay. That's very interesting. 83% have said that yes, they've got a current integration, they're integrating further, and then it's 17% of you that are looking to find out more info. That's excellent. We'll get cracking then on today's webinar. So, changing to the working environment. We're all pretty aware of what's been going on in the world for the last 14 months or so. Or if you're not aware, you must have been living in a cabin in the woods. Many companies, I'm sure a lot of yourselves on today's webinar, had to change the way they work day to day. So we're not being able to go in the office, collaborate with staff. It completely changed how we work. Fast forward to today, many of you are now used to working from home, meaning you've got a bit more time on your hands to actually look at the current software, any process you have, and obviously see if there is a way of linking those two systems, such as with integrations. So how does VC help? Ultimately, the faster and more accurately you complete a job, it's better for you, better for your team, better for your client. The fewer manual processes involved in this equation, the more likely we are for those things to happen. So anything with reduced human error, remove mistakes, can only be a good thing for you and your business. Not only does it save money, morale internally, but your client will also appreciate good, accurate turnarounds as well. So powerful features. So there's a lot of different features that we have. George is going to go through them in a bit more detail for you. Just looking at the ones in front of you here, document creation. For those of you that don't know, document creation is somebody who might be writing a normal business letter. They might be copying information from your CRM. So you copy the client name, the client address, and you're pasting that into a Word document. Just talking about it, it's obviously a slow, boring task. So what we do with document creation is we can actually completely eliminate that for you, and we'll show you how that's all pieced together as we go through the webinar. Just looking here, two that stand out to me, might sound simple enough, is filing and searching. So searching is something that you probably do more than anything else. You might currently, to find a document in VC, it might be taking you, 10, 12 clicks to pull that document. What we can do with these integrations is you can be sat in a client record and with one click, pull back any specific document related to that client using our client codes. George will come in, we'll go through that in a bit more detail. And then obviously filing documents. So there's a few ways of getting documents into VC. You might be using the Outlook pane, you might be using a hot folder, or you might just be indexing documents directly from your in-tray. There's quite a few different things we can do in terms of integrating. Basically, we create a watch folder where you just automatically drop documents into virtual cabinet, monitors that folder, and automatically files those into VC for you. We can take it steps further, automatically publish that to your clients. I won't go into too much on that because I'm going to hand you over to George now, and George will be able to go through exactly how these integrations work for you guys.
Thank you, Seb. Hello, everybody. I hope you're well. As you can see on here, I'm going to do the techie bit. You'll probably be glad to know I'm not going to go through it in minute detail. You don't necessarily need to know exactly how everything works, but I mean, that's what you pay us to do, really. But I think it's probably worth you seeing a rough framework of how things fit together so that you can then go away and have a little think about what you could get out of doing this. And ultimately, if we end up achieving one thing from this, what I want you to do is go back to your desks or sit where you currently are and just have a little think about how your staff or you or the admin and secretarial people in your business, how any of them are performing their day-to-day jobs. And if there's anything they're doing that is repetitive, mundane, prone to error, all that sort of stuff, any individual process that you think we might be able to do something to help you with, that's what I want you to come back to us with. There is no such thing as a stupid question. Can it do this? Can it do that? I want to hear those questions because more often than not, the answer is yes. But if we don't know you have a problem, then we can't solve anything for you. So I'm just going to run through these reasonably quickly. I'll have a little bit of demonstration going on, so I'll be bouncing backwards and forwards between screens a little bit. So bear with me on that. But hopefully I'll be able to give you at least a flavour of how these things work and what we can do for you with a couple of real life examples that I've done for people recently. So the first one of these you can see is a live database link. Ultimately, any integration that we have requires us to be able to get to the data that we need to integrate with. I'm going to focus predominantly on CRMs, client relationship management software, because ultimately most of the work you do, certainly the billable stuff, is based around client documentation and doing work for them that you can then earn money for. That's what we're all here for at the end of the day. So yes, database links is the main one. Most pieces of software, VC is no exception to this, is based on a database. It's just a massive load of tables that are full of data that we use to present to you in a more attractive form in VC itself. All of the other CRMs, or a significant proportion of them, bits of accountancy software, estate agent software, legal software, all of it is also based around databases. So what we try to do is get these databases talking to one another in as seamless and helpful a manner as possible. And it's not limited to one other piece of software either. I mean, most companies now will be running 2 or 3 bits of software to do their day-to-day jobs. And if we can get all of them talking to one another, then the amount of work you have to do, let's say for bringing in a new client, is minimized. So you enter it in one place, and then through one way or another, we extrapolate that data out into all of the other databases and collate that information into one central location. So that's what we use live database links for. And hopefully, I really hope, most of you will have what we call intelligent indexing set up within VC itself. I don't like people having to maintain manual lists. I don't like people having to manually enter pieces of information into VC. So over here, as you can see in my tray, hopefully you'll all be familiar with, where I go to file a document, I drop it in there, get my area, and then in here I've got a list. I've only got 5 because it's a small database, but ultimately that list should be your live list from whatever your CRM is. Nothing more complicated than that. One thing I will show you, because I've been specifically requested to do so by support, I was a little bit surprised by this. Give me 1 second. But it's come to my attention that a lot of people either aren't aware of or don't use the indexing pane within Outlook. So calling this an integration is perhaps a little bit of a stretch, but ultimately it is something that will save you time and money if you use it and you use it well. So here, as you can see, you're all more than familiar with an email. We write hundreds of them a day each. On the right-hand side, I hope you all have one of these. We find a lot that some members of staff do have this and some of them don't. We do have methods of rolling it out automatically to all members of staff. So if that isn't there for you, please do let us know. Support can fix that for you. So I'll just breeze through this very, very quickly. Where on the right-hand side at the moment is waiting for suggestions. This is a relatively new thing that we've added in. So again, if you've been a client for a long time and you haven't looked at how your integrations have kept pace with technology and time and development and all the rest of it, you may not have this. But ultimately, what it's for is for VC learning where you are filing stuff. So if I write myself an email, where I've previously written myself an email, I have filed it against this client over here on the right-hand side. So if I have an email address for a client and I only ever file against that client with this email address, VC will just say, do you want to file it there? Do you want to file it there? Yes, I do. Conversely, as is often the case, if you have a client who has multiple limited companies or multiple legal cases or multiple properties that you're managing for them, you will have a big list of stuff here, but you always want the documents to go into the right place. So we will then extend that list as you communicate with this client so that it will include all of those bits of information. What I then do is say, yes, I do want to file it there. Yes, I want to file it under correspondence. And then here I've got all my normal lists that I would file under my indexes that will have been set up when you started using VC. The additional bit, again, that some people aren't aware of is this button here, which says conversation rule. So this is where I fill in my filing information, I write my email, I send it to my client, they receive it and they respond. Perfectly normal thing to do in the course of business. What Virtual Cabinet does is it recognizes that their response is a response to my initial email. So where I filed it under Joe Blogs, they reply, VC will pick that email up, check it, recognize that the initial email was filed under Joe Blogs, and it will file it there automatically, and so on and so on and so on. So as Seb has said, and we will be repeating this many times, if there's anything in here, particularly this, that you don't have, please do get in touch with your account manager and we will get it sorted out. Right, the next thing I'm going to show, which Seb also alluded to, is document creation, which is just a natural extension really of the live lists that we use, but in a slightly more clever way. So where the live lists, you want to file something away, you don't want to fill in 20 pieces of information, you probably just want section, document type, client name, description, and that's about it, not much else to it really. However, your CRM will include lots of other useful pieces of information about that client. So what we do is we allow you to create a number of templates for standard letters that you send out in the normal course of business, but which previously you've been manually copying and pasting from the CRM into a Word document. Or you've got some hideous template management bit in your network folder somewhere, which over years has become a horrible, horrible mess. In here, you can come and tidy it all up. So here I've got an aid memoir, which I'm sending out to one of my clients. All VC asks me to do is pick which client I'm doing this letter to. I select, and then it will run off to the CRM, find out who the directors are, what the address is, who the partner is who looks after this client, what their VAT number is, company registration number. It doesn't matter. If the piece of information is there for us to grab hold of, we can do, and we can bring it into here. So after I've picked my client, I click on Create Document. VC will then create a Word letter with all of that information that I've brought in. I'll just bring that over here. So as you can see now, I've got all of that stuff being automatically brought in. So as long as it's correct in my CRM, I know that it's correct in here. So that's one more thing that I don't have to check when the letter is going. The other thing that it does is because VC knows which client you picked when you went to create the letter, if I now close this off, it asks me, do I want to save it as a new document in Virtual Cabinet? Yes, I do. And VC will then automatically file that under correspondence, under the correct client code with today's date, so on and so forth. Again, something you then don't have to do manually. Just bounce briefly back to the presentation. And then the OCR of documents. This is something that has become much, much more popular recently. Automation of filing and automation of publishing. Again, if any of you were lucky enough to watch my automation webinar, that will have come up in that as well. As a real life example, what we have done recently for one of my clients, who is a car insurance company in Belfast, what they had to do because of Brexit was send every single one of their clients a letter with a bunch of information on it, which basically allowed them to drive over the border into the Republic and still be insured under their Northern Irish insurance. Very big firm, they had to send out 200,000 of these letters. So what they would ordinarily have had to have done in the normal course of business was print out 200,000 letters, put them all in envelopes, frank them, post them, and then essentially not be able to find out who had read them, who had dealt with them, and just hope and pray that the stuff had gone to the right people and everything had been dealt with properly. What we did instead with Virtual Cabinet using an integration, keyword there, I will just show you on my desktop now. It's very, very simple. Give me 2 seconds. Right, so this is my desktop. Very clean, as you can see. What we have here is just a standard letter that I have made up. This would, for example, be one of 1,000 letters that I'm sending out. The letters in content are all absolutely identical. The only thing that varies is who they're for and where they're going. So what we do is we OCR this document, we look for certain bits of information, such as a client code. That's all that needs to be on here. And then we can run off to your database and get all of the other information, predominantly the email address for this particular client. So I will just do this with one letter for now, but imagine it was done with 1,000. I just drop this into that folder. It sits there for about 10 seconds while VC has a little think about what it's supposed to be doing with it. And then it takes it out. Let me drag this back over. Sorry, 2 seconds. That letter will then, with a little bit of luck, have gone in as one of today's letters. So there, here you can see it's been filed against the correct client with the correct document description, and then over here, crucially, it has also been published out to that person by the portal. So in this case, with those 200,000 letters I was talking about, they dumped them into a watch folder, VC read them, filed all of them, sent all of them out, and it didn't cost the client a penny. That is, to me, what an integration should be doing. It should be saving you time and money and effort. All right, we'll just flick back to the main presentation. And then I will briefly talk about how we deal with built-in pieces of integration. So here you can see the bottom two, internet-based bits of software and direct development with the software house. They're sort of one and the same, but how we deal with them is slightly different. So where we've got browser-based bits of software, which are obviously becoming more and more prevalent as time goes by, you may or may not have heard that we're creating a new SaaS product, a browser-based document management, task management piece of software. So obviously we have had to integrate that with VC. So there's two-way document transfer between our two bits of software. If you are an IFA, financial advisor, and you work with something like Intelligent Office, which obviously is also a browser-based bit of software, we have to find ways of integrating with that. So IO is a good example. They don't allow us very good access to client data through their APIs. So what we ended up doing with them, our developers, we locked them in a room together to figure this stuff out. They built a button within their web browser software that allows us to do one-click searching and one-click filing for whichever client you happen to be looking at in the browser. Direct development with the software houses is broadly similar, but these bits of software tend to be based on premise. So if you're using something like, if you're an accountant and you're using Digita or CCH, or you're in insolvency and you use IPS from Turnkey, we have actually also guided by our clients sometimes, particularly with IPS. Some of our clients came to us and said, we need an integration that works with IPS. We said, fine. We then ended up forming essentially a user group with a bunch of IPS clients and a bunch of our clients. They told us what they wanted, and then our developers and the IPS developers went away, and between them, they then created what the clients want. Again, that for me is exactly how integrations work. There's no point in us looking at a piece of software and deciding how we think you use it. Obviously, we're quite experienced at it, but it's not the same as doing it on a day-to-day basis. if you have something in your day-to-day that you want us to look at, tell us how you want it to work, and we will do our absolute best to try and get it working with the other piece of software. I'm just going to give you a very, very quick demo of how the Digita integration works. If you use Digita, you'll recognize this, but if you do not, then just try to imagine that this is your CRM rather than Digita itself. So anyway, here we are, we're looking at Digita. This is, as you can see, just a normal client record. This is a piece of tax building software if you aren't in accountancy, but if you are, you'll know what you're looking at here. Looking at a particular client, what I want to do is I want to create a form within Digita, which will use the information from Digita itself. In this case, it's going to be a 64.8, authorization to act on someone's behalf. Digita will then go back to itself effectively and pre-populate all of this stuff, national insurance number, client name, all that sort of thing. And on the left, Digita have built a button in saying save form to document management. So the user has created this, no effort, one click, filed it, no effort, one click. And then when it's gone in, Digita have also created a button up at the top, which is just about to be hovered over, open document management. When you click on that, again, one click, Digita knows which client you're looking at, DC knows which client you're looking at, it brings back the client file, and there is the document that we have just created and filed in, what, less than a minute. So again, excellent integration, exactly what I'm looking for. Okay, that I think is probably enough from me. I will hand you back to my colleague Sebastian to continue. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Brian. So as you guys can see, there's obviously quite a few integrations on the screen here. Now, if this isn't all the integrations that we work with, this is just for the webinar today. A few of these that you can see, just look off the bat, we've obviously got the Zero practice management integration here. So that's an interesting one, but we're seeing a lot more of our clients, especially recently, are looking at the Zero practice management. So we've migrated quite a few clients onto that. We've got the Salesforce on there as well. This is actually something that we use internally as our CRM. So all of our client data of you guys is all in Salesforce. So this is something that once we implemented, we realized, well, actually a few of our clients are using this. We needed integration here. So our developers sat down with them and they've created that integration off the back of it, which is very, very handy. Just to reiterate what George was saying earlier on, if any of you in the insolvency business are currently using IPS, we are just about to release the IPS cloud version. It's actually going live with a couple of our test clients at the minute. So that should be fairly soon, and that will be on general release for everyone. Like we've said throughout this presentation, is that if you do have any questions in regards to the demonstration, please do let your account manager know. On a quick side note, we've also been in the financial services sector, been working with Xplan. So this is something that we're at the early stages of developing, but I know quite a few of you on this webinar are currently using the two systems. So hopefully that integration won't be too long or too far away. Got a couple of questions that have come in. I've just been monitoring them as we've gone through. Got a question here from Sophie. How long does it take to implement an integration? It all depends. It all depends. It depends on what size company you guys have there. You know, training, migration of data from the current system. So again, you're going to have to speak to your account manager, and then we can come back to you. And then on the final question here, is the functionality all the same for the integrations? The functionality isn't the same for all integrations. Typically, if you're running a SQL-based piece of software, then the integration we can guarantee we can get that data, the data that we require. All depends on what information we can get. Typically, anything that's run is sat on your server, we will be able to integrate with, to the extent that George showed us earlier on.
We've got a question here from Rashik about Iris. Can it be automated similar to Iris? Yes, it depends. I mean, Iris is actually one of our better integrations in inverted commas. It really should be pretty full, like stuff like automail. If you're creating letters in automail in Iris, you should be able to pump those out and automatically send them to BC and automatically send them to the portal. So basically that thing I just showed you with the letter, we can replicate that in automail, and the live link lists will be there. But yeah, ultimately give us a shout, speak to your account manager, and we'll go from there, I think.
So for any of you that haven't got the account manager details here, you can see these lovely faces just in front of you. You've got the numbers there. Feel free to either give them a call or drop an email about any of the questions you have. As we said throughout this presentation, if you're not sure on whether we integrate with a particular piece of software, let us know. Chances are somebody's either asked a question or we're in the processes of discussing it. So do let us know if you want to get the ball rolling with an integration. So thank you very much, everyone, for logging on today. Thanks for your time. And we hope to see you again on one of our next webinars.
Cool, lovely. Thanks, guys. Hope you have a great day. Cheers.